those nominations.
I have one, but I didn't.
Welcome, everyone, tonight. Our chairman, Suzanne Nelson, has been called away and is unable to chair tonight. I'm Gina Webb, and I call our 38th meeting of Jacksonville Environmental and Appearance Advisory Committee to order. I would like to welcome everyone to our last meeting of 2017. Our meeting target time tonight is 1 hour. I want to recognize our council, Miss Angela Washington, who has been reappointed to her post. We thank you very much for all your service to our great city. There is a committee listing on page 3. Every committee member is asked to update their contact information to correct, if necessary, the information the city has on file by letting the staff know.
That'd be me.
We will now consider the adoption of the agenda.
Motion to adopt.
You just called the vote now.
I'm sorry, I wasn't through.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. At this time, all members should have already reviewed the agenda. If there's a motion to adopt or amend the agenda.
Motion to adopt.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, nay. At this time, the agenda is approved. Minutes of October meeting are delayed. No action is required at this time. However, the attendant report is provided on page 5, which must be submitted to the clerk each month. Should there be a mistake on this report, please let staff know as soon as possible. Thank you. At this time, I would like to take a moment for our committee members and staff members to introduce themselves. We will start on my left.
That's me. I'm Glenn. I'm Glenn Hargett with the city. And this is Johnny Stiltner, Superintendent of Streets for the city.
Hi, Ed Blizzard, committee member since last year.
Betty Scheffelbein, member. Linda Smith, member.
Sunshine Williams, member.
Councilwoman Angela Washington, liaison.
Isaac Keys, member. Grace Hobart, member and past chairman.
Okay. I'm Gina Webb, vice chairman. It is now time for our presentation for this meeting. I'm going to turn over the introduction of the next 2 items to staff member Mr. Glenn Hargett.
Well, as indicated, this is Johnny Stiltner. He's part of the team here and is easily relied upon for the maintenance of our streets and byways. You have found him to have done a wonderful job in the past, and he continues that way. And tonight he's going to talk to you a little bit about how some decisions get made on streets and such. So we turn it over to Johnny to talk a little bit about clean and green and streets.
Thank you, Glenn. It's always a pleasure coming and spending some time with committee members. I say it's an honor to do what I do for the city. I've loved it for 20 plus years, and it's getting close for me to turn it over to someone else later on. But the little notes I have for you tonight, some of it may be a little confusing, some of it may not be, but I want to go into a little area of questions that we get asked frequently. All the time someone is saying, do you fix this street? Things like that. And they also ask a lot of other technical questions. And some of them tonight is like, how do you choose a street for resurfacing and rehabilitation and just general repair? And we have a plan and we have a program that really does that, and it evolves. We had one prior to 2013 that we did it one way, and then after 2013, we did it another way. But this particular slide that you're looking at now is one that we call our pavement condition rating formula. It has numbers and names there, but it's interesting to know that there's a book that we have to kind of watch and look. We take pictures of our streets that show cracks and breaks and little divots and utility cuts and drainage issues. There's about 13 or 14 items that we look at in every segment of our street, because that's where we get numbers, percentages, and we come up with the numbers on the slide there. So down where the 0 and 30 is, that's a pretty bad street, as you can tell. And we select those numbers, that's the graphic. We select those numbers from the distresses that you see. There's just 3 areas that are concerned. It's like how many of those items I just mentioned about drainage, about the cracks and the breaks and the dry pavement and the crumbly of the pavement itself. There's some names for all that I just said, but I'm not going to go into all the names of rutting and shoving and things like that. But the idea is, one, when you have those in those segments and a technician is out there trying to grade it, he will write down numbers. He'll even count how many repairs of utility problems might have been in the street. He'll add all that up and come up with a percent. And once the percent is established, it'll fall within that 100 to 0. And that's what the average will be. Now, it's not worst first always. It used to be worst first prior to 2013. If it was the lowest number, it got the first money to be repaired because they generally cost the most to fix too, because they've been gone, well, they went bad for too long. And we call those our category E streets. And even the D street is kind of bad. So what we're looking for is a way to keep those numbers higher. And we'll do that by some programs. And first of all, street repaving and rehab. Streets division has a small amount of money, anywhere from $200,000 to $300,000, but in the overall maintenance area for streets to do pavement is about $500,000. That's overall. But the capital improvement project is the other category. They are setting aside $830,000 every year to fix streets. That's the capital program. So you take that amount and the little amount I have, we have over $1 million every year we're putting into our streets. Now, prior to 2013, we used to go out and literally dig the street up and redo the whole street. And boy, was that expensive. And we probably ended up doing maybe a mile a year, maybe. And we decided that it's not necessary to do that. Our friends, the DOT people from the state, they go out and do 2 things. One, they will mill patch. That means they'll grind it out and patch it. And then do that 1 year. And then a follow-on of a couple years later, they'll overlay the whole road. We looked at that and we did it too. We started doing something very similar. And we would go out and test our subgrade. We would go out and drill samples of that subgrade. We look at it. We get a fair evaluation of whether the subgrade is good or not. If the subgrade is good, why in the world would you dig it up? Because that's costly. So we decided not to do that. And if the subgrades are good, we will do just an overlay of some form, unless there's another area. But it gets complicated. You can put different types of asphalt, and you can put different thicknesses of asphalt, depending on the volume and the quantity of vehicles that go through there, the traffic counts, things like that. So how we select is just not a number purely, because sometimes we want to know what the traffic volume is on that road before we choose that particular street. So we want to know everything we can really know about the street, and we make a sound decision. And the engineering department does a good job at that. The streets division does a good job at just selecting those that we just want to put an overlay on. And that's a higher number street. That's one that's in the middle somewhere, where we want to catch it before it falls down to the bottom, because it still is expensive down there. So we want to try to do that, and we've been doing that for about 5 years now, just mainly doing overlays on certain segments. And we've got about 6 or 7 miles in just with the little $200,000 that we put into it every year. So hopefully that's a plan to tell you that how streets does it, and then there's a capital plan how the engineering division does it. There's some more to this now, and let's move forward, because as I said, the streets focuses on the lower C rating streets. That's a 50 to a 70. Then we will try to do some repaving in those areas, and we'll mill and patch also, and we may let that street rest for a year, because sometimes if you've been down a street in the center of it where maybe a sewer line goes, it's kind of rough and it sags a little bit here and there. We will drill all that out and mill it out and then overlay it, and then maybe 2 years later we'll overlay the whole entire street also. So what we do with the patching and stuff, it does raise the numbers up. So the numbers get up there where they're maintainable, and then eventually we'll get them all the way to 100. The capital projects afterwards, as I mentioned earlier, the focus is on the below average and poor streets. That's your D, and then the failed and very poor streets are the E's. So those get into a full construction, but sometimes we find that those streets still have very good subgrades. We don't have to spend all that money on them. We will just do the overlays and make sure that the subgrade is sound by doing our core samples and doing the checks that we have to do. So that falls in place fairly well.
The
And that-
subgrade is what's under the asphalt?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
You have a baseline down there that is tested. It's put down in a rock and a gravel format, and then you do a load test over it. And if it doesn't move any, we're good to go. If it kind of bounces a little bit or sags and dips, not there yet. So that's a process that the inspectors do before they will allow asphalt to be put on it. So it's a good plan. So the project types are full reconstruction and then the pavement reclamation. The streets capital projects in after 2013, we want to increase the C streets. That's in the middle. We want to try to catch some of those before they do falter, even in the engineering area. I do it, and now they're doing it also. The idea is to get that street in the best condition we can, because in 5 or 10 years, that C street will probably fail. And if we do it now, we're going to give it 20 more, 30 more years of life, which means you're catching it early so that it doesn't fail. Some other frequently asked questions from time to time is, where does the money come from for repaving the city streets? And our primary payments are an area called Power Bill. I hope you've heard of it. If you haven't, it comes from the federal government to the states, and they give us some money, and it comes from motor fuel and alternate fuel taxes. And that distribution is based on two things. 75% of that distribution is based on our population in the city. The other 25% is based on the 155 miles of road that we have. It's actually 155.85 right now. And we do an annual report and submit that to the state with a map that shows our city streets, the ones we maintain. And this 1.8 million is about what we get. But out of that, you have to pay salaries, you have to pay all the things that go along with that. So we're ending up getting about $1 million of that for actually putting right into the streets, and that's good. The rest of it is overhead. The Power Bill allocation, there is a report that comes through, and it's got every city and every segment of a city, which means a county or whoever that maintains streets. And again, it's the population and the miles of streets, how you get your money. You'll get it twice a year. It used to be all at once. They'd give you your 1-point-something million, or for the city of Jacksonville. Others are different. Like Charlotte, they may get 20 million. The bigger the street, the more roads you maintain, the more money you'll get. And of course, population is in there too. So with the Power bill allocation is maintaining, repairing, constructing, reconstructing, or widening those city streets. And we also include in there the bikeways, the greenways, or sidewalks for planning and construction of those too. That's the authorization that Power bill says you can use this money for, because there's a lot of others that says you can't use it on things too. Another question is how much is spent each year for street repaving and rehabilitation? I have mentioned numbers already, and that's about what you'll hear again. My total of $550,000 does include the concrete, the curb and gutter, and the sidewalks that go along our streets. And that's about $550,000 for my budget. The other capital project, like I said earlier, is $830,000 a year. Wish we had more. I've been wishing that for a long time, so maybe Santa Claus will be nice to us one of these days. What is the cost to repave and rehabilitate 1 mile of city street? These numbers change every so often. There was a big change when the gas prices started to fluctuate with oil prices. A real big change, because one time I would have a purchase order in for buying asphalt, and I'd have to turn around and put in 3 or 4 change orders because the price went up in 1 year. It's difficult sometimes, but that's the way it is. But just to mill and overlay, you can see the cost difference if you're just doing the, I won't say minimum, but you're just doing what's required to get the street up in a higher category. But to reclaim it, meaning you're digging out all of the asphalt and you're putting in maybe a subgrade and more asphalt, that's quite expensive. So a mile of that is what it amounts to there, $780,000. And you can see that would almost take our capital budget right off the bat to do 1 mile. Our goal is to do 3 to 5 miles. And believe it or not, since we changed from 2013, we have doubled in our mileage per year on getting the streets rehabbed. And coming to that question right now, how many do we expect to do? And our goal is 3 to 5, and it depends on the funding, of course, because sometimes power bill can be, it's not always an exact same. It's not an exact science, because cost of gas or the taxes on gas and things like that do influx. Streets Division maintenance budget, we've been, for that little 200,000 and some odd, we've been doing about 1.2 miles of overlays every year, which to me was the best shot that I could get at trying to catch these streets before they fail, and it has worked out well. The capital project from the engineering side is 2 to 4 miles since 2013. Another question a lot of time is, why are some streets listed in the CIP not repaved or rehabilitated? I can answer that a couple things, but I wish I could give you a better answer. But sometimes the engineering division, they evaluate the street, but remember what's buried underneath that road: sewer lines, water lines, and culverts and other things. But mostly the sewer lines and water lines have the effect on things like, why did you not pave it? Well, it may be another year or two before we can get the sewer line fixed or replace the water line. One example is Wyatt Henderson Drive done, and that's a state road, but we've got to replace the water line coming down the road, and we're going to reline the sewer line coming down the street there, and then they'll repair the main road. That's the same with our smaller streets. If we have some utility problems, no need in trying to fix a road with a sewer line that's falling apart. I mean, that's common sense. It'd be almost like fixing it and then go back and digging it up to fix the sewer. And we try so hard, but guess what? Utility cuts happen on new, freshly laid asphalt. 2 days later or 2 weeks later, you get something going wrong. And we haven't had much of that since we stopped a method that we did with grinding out the asphalt, putting in the cement mix and stuff, but when we were grinding out too much, too deep, we were already messing with that sewer line down at the bottom that might be 2 feet away or 3 feet away. And if we don't know what's happening, we're gonna cover all that up and have a beautiful road, and there's a leak going on. We don't realize it until it shows itself to the top of the road, or the road starts sinking, and we know we have a problem. So, we wait on those utility repairs, so the street will wait. If you have those questions, anybody asks you that, they can always call the engineering division and get an up-to-date answer. If a street was maybe scheduled and it's been a year, wait a minute, what's going on? Probably utilities that really need attention. And sometimes our reports tells us we have to wait on some other design methods to make the repairs. That concludes what I wanted to tell you tonight. I know that some of it could get technically complicated, but you know, if you ever have questions, you can always call our streets division. We'll be more than happy to talk to you and discuss things. Not only streets, but we do the drainage for the city, of course, and mosquito control and the other things that we do from time to time. Any questions maybe on what I just presented?
Well, Johnny, I have a comment. I wanted to thank the City Streets Department for doing my street. It was probably 6-8 months ago, and I called it in. It was probably on your list already, but we had noticed that part of the street was starting to sag a little bit more. And within a week, someone was out there with spray paint and just saying, well, here's the boundaries as we're going to do. And then we didn't see anybody for a while. I said, well, you know, they're busy doing other things. But they came, and like you said, they had a sewer and water lines were involved. So that's what they had to do. They must have done a study or something in the meantime, went ahead and did half of the street, so it didn't impact the residents on the street, and that was wonderful. And I just want to tell you, it's just beautiful. You can't even tell now. They just smoothed it over. And it's just a wonderful drive down that street instead of going through that little dip. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Johnny and his crew do an excellent job. They also get called on to do many other things in the city too, which are a benefit because of some of the equipment they have and the manpower they have. But they even, some of you will recall that somebody will break down, my gosh, they'll help them as such there. They're just very good people. And you've had some people there that have worked there for a long time too. You don't think about that some of the tenure of some of the employees that have worked in the streets division. Thank you, Johnny, for your service.
Thank you, sir.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, I'm going to continue on, and this one's a subject that kind of came upon us for a while, and unfortunately, we've got January 1st looming on us here to kind of pass this message along and kind of go from that. I've included in your package there, and our citizens can get this online, some material that we're putting together about recycling, what we're going to be able to accept. This is not driven by anything that's unique to Jacksonville, unfortunately. In fact, we provided you a magazine article that was in a trade magazine that has to do with waste disposal. And you'll see in there that this is really all about markets. If you can't find a market for something, there's no sense in recycling. But we all know we all want to recycle everything we possibly can. Well, the problem now is that there's too much of some things for which there is no market. The other issue really in the background was what's been going on in China with so many materials that were going there that were being repurposed because of the massive construction that was taking place in China. And to think that has had an effect now that their construction has slowed on what we're able to recycle. So when you don't think you're a global citizen, you're a global citizen, and it affects everything. But we want to talk about this and get your help and input on what to do on this matter. We talked about the industry itself is changing. As mentioned, you'll find little boutique groups that can recycle everything, but they have a narrow market of what it is they're doing. It's not a mass market. And the stream that they use is much higher standard. They don't want a dirty stream. They don't want the trash in it because that costs them money to deal with getting the trash out of there and things as is. And as mentioned, the market conditions are tight. They talked about how that this load of recyclable materials got to China and it was totally rejected because it had so much trash in it. And so the companies had to ship it all the way back to the United States to take care of where to put it and whatever there. So all this is a real changing market. So beginning in January, we're really limited to 7 different activities that are out there. And these are aluminum and other metal cans, cardboard, and you can't have cardboard that's been contaminated by food.
Right.
So Richard Woodruff, our city manager, likes to joke about pizza boxes. You go, boy, there's a ton of pizza boxes in this community, but you know that's not really high quality recyclable material because it's been sold. And I think we can all think about some cardboard or things that we've gotten food in, and it's just not going to be recyclable because of what it is there. Newspapers and magazines, thumbs up. They can handle as it is. Glass bottles and jars, yes. There's a problem with glass, and if you read the article in detail, you'll find the markets really are limited to that. But North Carolina actually has one particular place that does nothing but recycle glass, but they've been out of service for so long, there's this huge backlog. But we're still going to take it, they're storing it, and when they reopen, they'll have a backlog of that to deal with. Plastics, 1 through 7, but no 6. No 6. That's the cheap little stuff that you'll be able to recognize. Cartons, both food and beverage that are clean, you know, and they don't have to be spotlessly clean, but clean, and junk mail and office paper. But here's the kicker. We generate a lot of shredded paper here. They don't want, you can't, in the carrying it out there and getting it done, it doesn't work. And anytime, you know, maybe this might be something that we do is take you out to the MRF and let you see that operation. It is impressive. It is impressive. And you know personally some of the people that have been involved in that operation as it is, things that have really changed about it. We took all of our staff out there in media services to look at it, and it was most interesting. No shredded paper, plastic grocery bags are the bane of that. There's not a way to recycle them that's easily done when it's in a mixed stream, and they clog things up. When you go out there, they're floating everywhere. It's just unbelievable. Plastic bags, wires with Christmas lights. The conveyor belts, I mean, think about it, you know, it just clogs the conveyor belts. I mean, it makes sense. Why not to recycle it? Needles, for pretty obvious reasons. Clothing and styrofoam. Styrofoam is a material that we would think would be recyclable, and it is especially. It's a trademark of DuPont, and they can recycle it, but, you know, it's not much market for it there. They can more easily produce it than to recycle it. Mirrors, ceramics, and appliances. Batteries, auto parts, cooking pots and pans, light bulbs, mini blinds, yard waste, and bulk waste. Now, toward the end of auto parts and things such as appliances and things like that, you know, Carrie Terrell has sat here and told you, you have an appliance to pick up, you dial 938-5338, they'll come and get it in the city. You know, no charge to you, it gets done. But we can't recycle it. He's got a specialized place that takes it. It's like electronics. We can't just, you know, put them in the recycling, but you can put them on the curb, and on Tuesdays they pick up the electronics. You call 5338, they'll come and get it for you. That's just easy to handle there on the matter. But the big thing is no garbage. We have people that you look in the recycling bin and it's 90% garbage and plastic bags, garbage and stuff. I mean, they know it's not recyclable, but it's there. But we've got to have what we're calling the clean stream of what's out there. Help us get the word out. Help us tell others. One of the concepts is that they're gonna open up the container, and if it's real contaminated, they have the power not to pick it up and put an oops tag on it type of thing where they can tell people. But, you know, we're hoping that our citizens can help us and say, you know, let's do that. The hard part is getting to people that aren't watching G10, don't read the paper, don't read the insert in our utility bill, not on social media. You know, they're just disconnected from those things and such there. You know, Ms. Harbert, you obviously know from your profession too, you know, about renters and things such as that, and you probably have stories about, you could tell about how disconnected they become. I live on a street, I was just amazed at what some people would leave out there as it was, and I didn't feel the courage to go and tell them otherwise at the time. But we welcome your ideas. The flyer that you see in there is one that we've come up with to kind of show what's going. We hope that's simple and, you know, shows what it is. The answer is, we've all now for the last, 20 years said recycle, recycle, recycle. And now we're saying, but only these things as it is there. So that's what that is. This is the basic of that diagram you have in your package there, just in a little different format. We're going to make this available. You're going to see this a lot of places. The county's going to be giving this message out because their MRF is actually one we use, as you know. You're going to hear about this in other places. I thought one of the most interesting ones, and Councilmember Washington may remember this when they talk about, well, do we need another company that's out there? Sunoco is the company that we use. It's one of the biggest in the world. They are impressive what they do. They make the paper tubes from recycled cardboard. They make paper products. They have the end game that use the recyclable material. If they can't sell it, who can? I mean, they're traded on the stock exchange. They're a big company as it is, and they've got some very good people here as it is. But they say our stream is dirtier than the stream in Wilmington, and we want to fix that. So we want that to happen. So, Madam Chairman, that's where that is, and that's our two presentations for this evening.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Great information. Does anyone have any questions for Glenn? No? Okay. At this time, Ms. Linda Smith is the chairman of the Planning Committee, and she has a report for us.
Good evening. The Environmental and Appearance Planning Subcommittee hosted appreciation breakfast on November 21st for the Sanitation Department. They really, I think, really enjoyed it. It went over well, and we had a good crowd. And you can see some of us on the pictures up there, giving them their breakfast, and some of the men that are working, and they had to go back to work. Now, on the 20th of this month, we're going to host the Recreation and Parks and the
Code Enforcement
Division. And we will be doing that at 7 a.m. So that's what we have planned coming up.
Thank you, Linda. I will now call on the staff member, Mr. Glenn Hargett, and Recognition Committee Chair, Patrick Carroll.
And I'll help with this. On the matter, I want to tell you, first of all, we recognize the people that you asked us to. Councilman Washington participated in passing out the awards. We had a pretty full house that night of those things, and I think they truly appreciated it as it was. And now it's time for the holiday contest. We gave one away basically for that early fall decoration that was there, and you have the capability of doing more, and we're going to give you some ballots to vote on later. But now's the time to really start on the holiday stuff. This was one that was submitted for 221 Yale Circle, and it's in there. We got to remember, when you take a picture, turn your camera or your phone on your side, okay? But so we can get a good picture. We do need a picture for these, so that helps it out on the matter. We also have 605 River Court. This one's an interesting one. They took an old red Chevy pickup truck, and of course they put Santa in it, and he's animated there. And they've loaded it up at their house, and everything is all, man, it's quite a little thing. And for Mr. Carroll and Mr. Blizzard, who like the lights and the music, they've got those for them. They like the colored lights is what they told us. They like that on the deal. This is 947 Eton Drive, and I think this kind of falls in that same category as it is, and very, very nicely done. This one didn't, they submitted the picture and didn't tell us where it was or what their name is. But we're going to show it. Maybe they'll see it here and tell us what address it is. The picture wasn't of enough quality that we could zoom in on it and get the number off of it, but I don't know what street it would be on, so that's the deal there. But so if you submitted this, please let us know where it is. We'd like to consider it. And this one's one that came in off of Halloween, and it got a lot of commentary about the comprehensive mass, and you'll see that there's a spider web that goes all the way to the roof line of the home here on Raintree Road. So that's one of the ones that's out there as it is. So we have still time to nominate. You can just go online to Holiday Lights and to The holiday contest, jacksonvillenc.gov/holiday contest. You'll come up with a form. Yes, you do need to submit a picture. You know, we got to have a picture, you know, so we make sure we get the right house. And plus, in getting this thing done, we can't see them at night until we're going to take the tour. And of course, all of you are going to be part of the invited to be a part of the tour. 4:30, December 13th. We'll depart as soon as we're gathered, and we'll go out and view these nominees and finds, and then we'll have you vote right then, and so that we can make the recognitions and go forward with that as it was. So, Mr. Carroll, anything you want to add to that?
No, you talked about the ones you had at the last.
That was a very nice one that we did for the
Yeah.
fall decor contest.
Well, no, the
there.
one that you had for what's his name downtown.
Biagio's, yes.
Biagio's, yeah.
Yes. That and
He was
Sparks
He was
Chiropractic.
very thankful for that.
Yes, he was. Brought his whole family.
Whole family was out there, and the whole family is. Boy.
That's good.
Well, if I may, Mr. Chairman, I'll just give the tree board note. This is to let everybody know that you set it on your calendar. When you get your city calendars, they'll be here shortly. It's already in there for you on April the 27th at a time and location yet to be determined. The tree board will make that decision. And they'll be meeting in January, and that's when that gets happened as it was there. And continuing on with the matters on the tree board, we just want to make sure people know here it is at Christmas time that if you want to honor or memorialize somebody, we've got a way of doing it here. And if you want to help, because that'll really help us with our tree program and such there, you can do it in a small amount, or you can, for $200, you can do a specimen tree in a specified location, or $100 a single tree, and we'll put it in the best location possible for that type of tree. There's a lot of trees that are out there that are available for specimen category, and all of us love these many trees that we have here, and they really help make our city look well. This is one at Sturgeon City Park, which has been a popular place where people have wanted to have trees put down there as it is, and it's really, you know, particularly when it was green, it was really nice as it is. And the Richard Way and the Wooten Park, we've had some really interesting donations in those areas. The ball fields with crepe myrtles, and it's going. The database is underway. We are working with our project to get that going. And of course, you can do seasonal plantings at several different locations, and you know, we can have this planting in honor of and put your name there for that. That can happen. If you want to do the park, you can do the whole park for $2,500 this spring. That would be a wonderful thing to do, and $500 if you just want to do one pod for that as it is. And that Freedom Fountain, which looks nice, and you know we have a 24-hour camera out there on it. I hope you've seen it on the local news that they use it as background for the weather sometimes and things there. For $1,000, you can do all the beds out there, and there are 3 seasons available because they do change it out. On Cheney Avenue, the famous, pots there as it is, he changes those out 3 times during the year. And for $500, you can have one with a name for your area. And outside of City Hall here, we have this one, and this is done once per season as it is. And the Gateway sign bed, which is a beautiful, beautiful entry there. $500 if you'd like to do that. And, you can buy this now. We can give you a certificate for someone for Christmas, and we can make this a nice little deal to you. And obviously at the train depot and the senior center, those are beautiful things too. If you got someone who goes to the senior center, what a wonderful gift to give someone in honor of that. We have our booklet. It's online, available for you to download, and available for that too. What's the matter there? Now, in continuing on, we want to talk about our One City moment. We think that the Winterfest was a wonderful One City moment. You'll see this picture in the atrium and here, and it was just indicative of how much fun it was down there, and with the snow and people playing. There was just enough overcast to make you feel that it might be real, as it was there. I wonder what she's really thinking about that guy to her left. But it was families. It was people that came out and had so much fun. There was, as Richard likes to say, there was no cost to anyone except for the food. That was the only thing out there. All the activities were free. Here's the One City beanbag game that you could play out there and learn what the qualities and habits were best to typified in the One City campaign as it was. But Buddy, the slide was the big deal. The kids loved that. They'd wait in line to do it. There were a whole lot of fathers that got very wet having to take kids down there multiple times and play in it there and such like that as it is. So, I mean, I think you can see this was, this looks like a magazine picture, does it not? But this was not staged. This was real people out there taking a selfie in front of the Christmas tree and something like that. So I think you can feel proud about your city. This is the pony rides that were out there. I think you can just say this is something special that you come together as basically a community and a neighborhood and look at that and see what's out there as it is. So that's our One City moment as it is, but I want to mention to you that particularly we're going to have another One City moment at 6 o'clock on this coming Monday evening. That's the Freedom Day observance. We'll be here in the council chambers. The Onslow Civic Affairs Committee will be putting that on. Ernie Lee will talk about human trafficking that's in our region that still exists to this day. And Marcia Wright will be addressing giving a Freedom Day observance address as part of the observance as it is. All of you are welcome. Do note, City Hall will be closed on that day. Your sanitation pickups will be altered for next week as it is, but but the doors will open at 5:15 for people to attend that opportunity. So, Madam Chairman, that's all I have, and I have no other staff items at this time.
Okay. At this time, do we have any comments for any of our members? Nobody? Okay. Okay. If there's no comments, our next regular meeting is Thursday, February the 1st, 2018 at 6 p.m. Please don't forget to sign up for our holiday light tour. I would like to wish all a happy holiday season, and with no further business, I declare this meeting adjourned.